Hello and welcome back to the Dome Radio Gamescast. As always, I'm your host Ryan. Today I'm joined by my lovely cohort of co-hosts, Alex,
My pen name is Villain McChillin.
Brett,
Hello, hello.
and Wyatt.
Hello.
We got some games to talk about. We're going to talk about some news from last week, including the State of Play that happened, the Japan Games State of Play, as well as going over game tutorial design. It's an interesting one, I think. So
Yeah.
that's our podcast topic for today. Is everyone excited? Everyone high energy in this low energy podcast?
Woo.
I'm not high energy, but I am excited. I love
Yippee.
talking
That's
about
all I
things
asked
with
for.
you guys.
So, with that, no further ado, we're gonna jump straight into the State of Play and get that out of the way, and talk about some of the things that happened. I think all of us have had a chance to see it. If not, feel free to ask questions if you haven't seen it about the games that we talk about, because some of them are hard to believe that they are real.
Yes.
First of which is totally not Dino Crisis
yeah.
by Capcom, which owns Dino Crisis.
Yeah.
With a character that looks exactly like one of the characters from Dino Crisis. We're talking about Exoprimal.
And dinosaurs.
Well, yeah, that's why it's
I don't.
I thought for a second this was going to be a Earth Defense Force
Same.
thing.
Ooh, that would have been good.
The Earth Defense
But
Force 6 is in active development, is like going to release soon. So I get why it isn't.
I swear it has to be a reboot that they're just not saying.
No, so I'm going to throw a wrench into the works here. Because I think a lot of people saw Exoprimal's trailer and were like, oh, this looks like kind of like Anthem with dinosaurs, pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's Capcom, so it's probably going to be good. I'm going to throw a wrench into the works right now and tell you some details about this game that I learned that made me very not necessarily upset, but concerned. I think that's the right word.
Oh no.
Exoprimal is focused around multiplayer,
I'm leaving.
competitive.
For a
Wait,
Capcom
PvE.
game?
What? Huh?
Yeah.
Wait.
It's a PvPvE
Sorry.
game.
We need
Like
to get on that Transformers game so we can saturate the market with some quality
So-
things.
So it's more Gambit than like.
Yes,
Oh.
Gambit is a good comparison, actually. So
Oh.
Exoprimal,
I like Gambit, so not
yeah.
a comparison in of itself, not a bad thing, but obviously, how this is executed remains to be
It
seen.
being the game is a little concerning. I think because
Yeah.
the way this trailer looks totally doesn't say Gambit type gameplay to me. This
No.
screamed cooperative co-op horde shooter, right?
Yeah.
Earth Defense Force, like I
Earth
said.
Defense Force, yeah. And I was totally down for that. So there are PvE missions in this game. It's not only PvPvE, but there is team-based action game modes where you are in a team and competing to destroy the most dinosaurs.
This went
Damn.
from like maybe you can justify it being full price to like I wouldn't pay $20 for it on release.
This
It's
concerns
not
me.
out yet. It's not out yet.
It has more
and
than
this
a year of
is-
development. It's 2023, so they have a lot of time. That could change. That's a weird pitch for this game.
And
Yeah.
also we,
Sticker.
comparatively speaking, we've barely seen anything of it. So,
Oh, yeah,
I
but
did.
this is where you're supposed to get your interest, and they didn't do a very good job.
I mean,
I mean,
people have
getting
been talking about
people's interest.
Exoprimal. But
I mean, I'm
just-
interested. I'm interested to see what happens because, like, I
Imagine
like.
how much more interest this would have had if it was called Dino Crisis.
If it was Dino Crisis, yeah.
But I mean, if it plays nothing like Dino Crisis,
Yeah.
people would have been more angry.
Yeah.
That's my question. But I did want to point out one thing, because looking back at the reveal here, the video, one thing that was kind of in the back of my head. At the very end, you have like Exoprimal, you have like the name drop, and then there's this scene where there's an empty chair, and then someone walks into frame and sits down, and you don't see their head.
Yeah.
It was framed to look like it was going to be some like,
reveal, right?
reveal of a
Yeah.
character or something. Like,
And it just
and I saw
doesn't.
the outfit, and I was like, that like Sam Fisher or something? Like, what the heck's
It's
going on?
Capcom. So who could it be?
Yeah.
No, I know, but like,
Phoenix,
because I saw
right?
this, because
It
I
could
saw
be
the
Phoenix, right?
the
I would love
suit,
that.
because I saw the suit, right, and I was like, oh, and that was immediately what popped into my head. I was like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. But like, it seemed like it was going to be this big character reveal because
Yeah.
they're like, hiding their head and stuff, but nope.
So I'm
My-
not totally off of this yet, but go ahead.
No, I'm not.
My crackpot theory is that because
Yeah.
there's just too many, like, you have the character that looks exactly like Dino Crisis Lady, you have the dinosaurs as Capcom, you have all these ingredients floating around that would literally just be, except for what we know of the gameplay, a Dino Crisis game. I wonder if they were just like, oh yeah, we're on the road to make a new Dino Crisis game. I can't wait for people to like this. And then
Because there've
someone
been
from like
rumors
outside
that
the
a
room,
Dino Crisis game was in development for a while.
yeah,
Oh,
and then someone from like
interesting.
outside the room walks in and goes, "Oh, hey guys, what are you doing?" And then they go, "Yeah, we're making this. It's Dino Crisis." And they go, "What are you talking about? Are you insane? This isn't Dino Crisis at all."
Yeah, I do
It just has
wonder
dinosaurs
if that's
in
what
it.
happened. Because reading this again, I might have been wrong about PvE modes because the way this is worded on the not the Dino Crisis, the Exoprimal website, exosuits are grouped into different roles. Players will pilot these exosuits to hold firm against overwhelming dinosaur swarms in online-only team-based action game modes.
I'm done.
Dino Survival, the main game mode, sees 2 teams of 5 players compete in a variety of PvE and PvP missions.
Like that. That's the thing.
Strange pitch.
I'm not out yet. Like Ryan, I'm not out yet. But
If it's free to play or
We'll
$20, I'm in. Right?
It's yeah.
If
I'm
that's the
pressing
price
the
point.
big
I don't think they had a
button
price
on-
point for it yet, did they?
Yeah,
I,
it's too
I'm
early.
pressing the big red X button on my American Idol judge stand.
Yeah.
What
It's
I'm not a
online
huge
only.
fan of, what I'm not a huge fan, because we were saying like, oh, it kind of looks like Anthem with like the robot designs. That being said, I don't like the like suit designs in this that much
No,
because
me
they
neither.
remind
like
me a
2 of
lot
them.
of Anthem suit designs, which I didn't like to begin with, and they don't have the weird chicken legs like Anthem
Yeah.
does, I don't think. But
One of them
I
has
don't know, it
hand
just-
feet,
Grade.
kind of.
One does have
And like
hand feet.
heels. Actually, 2 of them kind of have hand feet. Yeah.
Hand
the
feet.
big chunky yellow guy with like the big collar and the big shield thing. looks okay.
Roadblock,
Anthony.
according to the website.
Roadblock, that looks fine.
He sounds like a transformer.
There's one that's just
Yeah,
Genji.
He does.
There is one that is literally Genji called Zephyr.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
The Deadeye one, I think, is the one that I kind of like because it looks like a Metal Gear suit that you'd see, right?
Metal Gear.
I mean, from a
Zephyr-
gameplay perspective, they look interesting though. Like the big
Yeah.
yellow guy has this shield that pushes them back, which is an interesting like team-based mechanic, I think.
You gonna push a dinosaur back as something that is human-sized?
I mean, I think
Well,
good
it's
luck.
a giant shield,
Oh,
yeah, like someone's a
giant-
hard light shield, basically.
like a giant
Ah, cool.
Reinhardt shield, basically.
My concern with this, I think, is the player count is going to go down pretty quickly. Because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are going to pick this game up and not really gel with it. Of course, this is all speculation because we don't know anything else. We also know this game's going to be cross-platform on everything. Not sure about cross-platform multiplayer, but it is on every platform. Not PlayStation exclusive.
I feel like it would be far too mean to say that its all-time high is going to be, or its all-time high concurrent player count is going to be lower than 2042's is right now.
Well, I think that the hardest it's in that area where it's the hardest sell of a multiplayer game where it's online only.
Especially at like
It's-
$60 or $70.
If that's
Yeah.
how expensive it's going to be. But also the problem is that it depends on how team focused it's going to be, right? Like if it really
Mhm.
relies you communicating on with your other team and with your other teammates and stuff, I feel like that could kind
Yeah.
of hamper the player
It's also
count because you
bad
have
that
to go
the
in
vibes I'm
with
getting
friends.
the most from this game are Destruction All-Stars.
Oof.
Which did not end well, at least in terms of like people's interest in this. It's having the same glut of people that are interested because it looks funny, right? And that to
Yeah.
me says it's going to have a ton of people pick this game up, get really upset that it's not what they wanted, and then leave bad reviews, and then the game's gonna die.
Well, I was getting that, but the other like vibe I was getting, what was that that like multiplayer melee game? It was like a Microsoft exclusive. The
Oh,
Hellblade guys worked on it. What was it called?
yeah,
Oh.
like
This is the
something
problem,
Blade.
I can't remember it, and
Never played it,
that
and
was-
it instantly lost its players.
I
Aw.
played it a little bit, and it wasn't for me, but it was like a multiplayer like melee
Yeah.
team competitive thing, and that kind of died out quickly too because again it's a hard sell of like very like teamwork focused, new IP, online only. It's a hard sell.
It wasn't
Yeah.
kind of For Honor-esque, was it?
I mean, maybe a little
no.
bit. At least in
No,
like the
I mean, there
melee
wasn't-
versus melee, but it was more of a like objective based game from my knowledge.
The melee because I did play a little bit of it, and the melee combat isn't. It doesn't have that like, oh, lock onto one character and then you have to block in specific directions. It wasn't really
It was action based.
That is
like that.
Very
Yeah,
that is not ringing a bell at all.
All right. Let's move on from the failed Ninja Theory game and talk about Ghostwire Tokyo.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Ghostwire Tokyo to me is hitting a lot of bells that I like. It's hitting a lot of points that appeal to me as a person that enjoys Japanese horror as well as action games, and I really like the idea of having a Japanese horror theme in a game that is not a horror game, where you're really playing the role of like the shrine person who's defending from all these spirits. It feels very like shonen anime to me, which I think is a good spot for that game to be in.
It's fun to have like an action game with very like horror game looking enemies. I've always kind of enjoyed that contrast, I guess, because it's like, oh, these guys are super scary, but you could just run up and punch them in the face or whatever.
Yeah.
it's fun.
I really hope, though I don't think we will run into that hopping umbrella little kaiju guy.
I think they're in the game. I think we've seen them.
Oh yes, please.
So my big thing right now with Ghostwire Tokyo is I think this is a game that's very hard. It feels like Deathloop, where I think it's very difficult to tell if this game is going to be something you'll enjoy from footage.
The movement looks... I don't know how to describe the movement, but the animations of the hands catches my interest.
Oh yeah, the hand animations
Looks
are
very
fluid, right? They're very... They don't quite look natural. I think that's a good thing.
I don't know if I would call it fluid because they don't look natural. It's... because there's not many curves to the animation. It's very sort of... God, it is fluid. It's jarring, the motion is, but it's
like
fluid.
Liquidy, right? The hands move in ways that it looks like real hands should not.
Which
yes,
seems very
liquidy
intentional.
in that,
but
not...
It doesn't. Yeah.
Liquidy in the case of like what I imagine like waterbender type thing would be, but I mean it doesn't have to be, but it's very hard for me to describe it.
It reminds me, like, just like the first person animation style kind of reminds me of the first person animations of Overwatch, if I liked them, where it's just like kind of like going between the poses of like the hands like really fast and like stylishly to cast the spells and stuff.
That's
I'm thinking like
it does kind of feel like
kind of had those hand motions.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Zenyatta does a little bit. Sombra does when she's hacking things.
Yeah, that is it.
That's a good
it works
call out there. So yeah, I think this game is going to have some mixed reception on launch because I feel like it's going to be a similar thing where some people are going to pick this up thinking it's a horror game. And it's not going to be a horror game.
Which, to the game's defense, only the reveal trailer really gave that impression.
Yeah.
Everything else since then has been very like, no, this is very over the top. This is an action.
But I also think that there's a bit of confusion, justifiably, from people as to what the structure of Ghostwire Tokyo is, because they've kind of built it as both like a large open level game as well as the trailer footage making it seem open world. But from what I understand, the game is not standardly considered open world, but might be more along the lines of like something where it's very level based, but you might be able to revisit old areas. So to me, that is just very confusing from it having not been confirmed how the structure is. I also think for a game that's as like atmospheric as this, there's a lot of UI on the screen. All the time. A lot of like digital effects going on. And so I wonder if that's going to be an issue for a lot of people.
I also remember pointing out, and it's kind of harder to tell because this is a curated trailer, right? But I remember
they did release a 20-minute gameplay video along with this.
Which is what they did, okay. Which I haven't seen. Not the one along with this, but the one that they released before this. I remember pointing out, I remember noticing that a lot of the sound effects, like the mixing, seemed kind of strange. I think I
will say it seemed a little better in the gameplay footage that I just watched.
Okay, because it was quiet when I heard it, when I saw the first like kind of gameplay segment that they released. So hopefully that's better, but Yeah, I do remember noticing that last time.
So yeah, I'm very curious to see what the launch date of this game is. I don't think it's going to be easy to predict. All right. Any other thoughts on Ghostwire Tokyo? Nope. Moving on. Great. Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin got a new demo.
Rolls right off the tongue. Just rolls right off the tongue.
It's so confusing and also excellent. Got a new demo that is super long. I played this entire demo and it took like 6-something hours.
That's very generous.
And I was being decently thorough because I really enjoy the game and I was like doing a lot of different jobs and whatnot and trying them all out. But there's still like a good 2.5-3 hours of proper content in this demo, and it carries over into the full game. So if you have a thing you can play it on, download the demo, try it out, and see what you think. I will say this to me, I think is going to so solidly land in like the 7.5 territory of being basically a B-movie game in the best way possible.
Yeah.
The story was so over the top, and like the cutscenes are something else. I'm entranced the entire time because the mouth movements are just so strange.
Yeah. And the way the camera just like holds on some people when you're having conversation with the NPCs, it's
but
like
they're always moving, and so it's not like there's no motion. It's just very, it feels like a PS2 game.
It does. I love how like the normal like JRPG go to town and like explore and talk to people segments are just replaced with like, yeah, you could go to the circle on the map and you could just press the talk to people button, and then in front of this same fountain 6 different people will appear down a line and you can all talk to them and they'll say things to you that have no purpose whatsoever, and then they're gone.
Hey, some of them do. There's some really side stories in there because you can. One thing I did like, you can, if you miss a conversation, go and set the time period. You talk to them based on the mission that you had just completed, and they'll have different things to say. And so I was able to find out that there was like these two characters that were interacting with each other and talking about how the world's better after you killed not Chaos in the demo, who's not Chaos but looks like Chaos.
You heard of the Hyatt.
You have to kill Chaos.
We're here to kill Chaos.
I'll let you know they don't let up on the Chaos thing.
Oh my god!
The whole time.
Thank God.
I was so happy. Yeah, I really think this game is going to land in just the perfect state of being essentially what I think high quality Japan jank looks like.
Yeah.
Because the gameplay is like phenomenal. There's so little barrier to what you're doing in gameplay. And I think the Souls comparisons are serving it less now. Because I played it on action mode. This game does not feel like a Souls game anymore. It is very action heavy, especially once you get some of the later jobs that allow you to like make blocking very easy, and so you don't have to focus on doing counters. So, yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot more accessible than some people are making it out to be. But man, I can't wait to see what this is. Because I'm gonna give you all a little tidbit about this demo. The second area you go to is like a pirate dungeon, right?
Ooh.
This pirate dungeon, very cool. It is literally a Final Fantasy 14 dungeon. And I don't mean that in terms of like, oh, it's just got a similar theme. No, the art assets are the same.
Yep.
And it's intentional too, because the loading screen calls out Dimension 14 as looking very similar.
Oh my god.
Yep.
So I'm just sitting here wondering, is this game the Final Fantasy multiverse?
It's because in the last demo, somewhere on the map, there was like a Final Fantasy 13 area name.
There's a Final Fantasy 2 area after the 14 one. So I was like, I can't comprehend what this game is going to be.
It's which if this is the Final Fantasy multiverse game and all the character interactions are Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, then that is perfect. That is perfect, and it shouldn't be done in any other way. Because it's amazing.
It's Metal Gear Rising Revengeance if the plot made less sense.
Yes. But all the characters still just like, I am one emotion the entire time. Yes.
It's amazing. I love it so much. Yeah, I think this game is going to review pretty poorly.
In the best way, though.
In the way of, like, I think a lot of people are going to play this after having played Elden Ring and go, why isn't it perfect? Why is this...
Elden Ring is going to ruin a lot of games for people.
Yeah, Stranger of Paradise is very much a video game in the way that it really feels like I'm playing a PS2 game in the good way of Brett and I have been talking about, like, PS2 games were more willing to do these crazy things.
Yeah.
We just don't get that anymore.
Until now.
Until Stranger of Paradise comes out and Limp Bizkit plays for 10 seconds.
No.
Because
Until the
literally
actual-
a, like, 10-second scene, and before the like chorus starts, he turns it off.
So Ryan, did this come as much to a shock to you as the ooh wah, ah, ah, ah in the one?
Very similar feeling.
Oh my
Very
god.
similar. Yeah, I think it's
That's high
one of the
praise.
most insane things I've played recently, and that's just the demo.
My
I think my
god.
real concern now is how big this game's gonna be, because the demo just kind of kept going in a way that surprised me, and I think this game is gonna be a lot longer than a lot of people thought it would be.
It's gonna be a Final Fantasy game. Of course, it's gonna be long.
I don't know. I think it's a proper Neo game, because Neo games are also way longer than they look like they are. So, yeah, I can't wait for this to come out. I'm very curious as to what's going to happen. All right, moving on. Forspoken shows up again. You can surf on ice. The game's been delayed.
Yeah.
About right. It looks too good to come out on time.
Delayed to October.
That's-
So, not too bad.
Too good visual wise.
I'm still down. Everything that I've seen in terms of like combat and movement, it looks really slick.
Yeah,
Like,
the
it-
things
it
that are
seems like
bothering
it's a
me are the
game-
story right now.
It seems
Yeah.
like it's going to be a game that has this amazing flow state to it, and
Yeah.
I want to play it because again,
Well, it's reminding me a
the
lot of
best-
Infamous, right? To me, that's
Yeah.
the closest comparison with the combat. Is Infamous
Huh.
feels very similar.
It looks, the only word I can use to describe it, it looks slick. Like, it just looks like it would be such a joy to control.
I just hope it
Um,
plays as well as it looks like it plays.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm-
and that remains to be seen. But
Something.
I'm curious to see, because unless, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if there's been like an actual gameplay thing separate from the trailers, but like from the trailers, it's like there's no UI and the
I don't
camera's
think
just
we've
kind of
seen
going all
UI.
over the place. Yeah, the camera is the thing that really screws with me, because it's like it's moving in ways that clearly this is not like gameplay. It's like a separate like
Well, it'll cut
Like,
something that
movie
kind of looks
camera.
like gameplay for like 2 seconds, and then zoom away
it's
from it.
yeah.
I'm looking at an 8-minute demo that has UI on it.
Okay.
It does.
The frame rate is terrible for
Oh,
some reason.
That, I
Okay,
remember that.
it probably got
That's-
delayed for a reason.
That's probably the delay reason. I remember this demo now that you
Whoa.
mention it.
Yeah.
One of the-
wow.
One of the things that I think is interesting, like visual wise, besides just how pretty it looks in general, I've seen her wear different. The main character wear a lot of different scarves in different shots. So I'm wondering if like the scarves show what type of power you have
That'd be cool.
equipped or something like that.
Maybe.
Let's take some cues
Or
from
if it's like-
Journey.
Mhm.
If the scarf is like the main cosmetic item, but it's I don't know. It's just,
I think there's
I
definitely
like
been
flowing
other
fabric.
outfits from what we've seen, although I don't know if that's like story based or not.
Yeah. This is another one where it's like, is this an RPG or is it more of an action game?
I think we know this is an open world thing of some sort.
Well, it's an open world thing, right? But I mean, there's
I'm
there's a lot of
expecting
variety within
Final
an
Fantasy
open
15.
world.
To be honest, that's my expectation right now. Is this is going to be?
Ouch.
I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. I think what I'm expecting
Yeah.
is Final Fantasy 15's open world, but in a game that is more designed for it.
More suited for it, yeah.
Yeah.
And the biggest issue to me right now is the main characters, the way of
Yeah.
speaking, and just. I like her design. I like her voice. I think more than a lot of people. But what I don't like is the constant like Spider-Man quips.
Yeah, her
For me-
actual words she says.
Because a lot of people have an issue with that, and I completely understand. For me, I'm waiting to see what it's like in context
Yeah,
with the rest
it
of
might
the
be
game.
better. They might just be
So
like
what-
cherry picking things for trailers that are bad. But
not like
Because-
not coming at you or anything. Why is it good with Spider-Man quips when it is Spider-Man or a Spider-Man, and not when it's anyone else? Is it just
I
the
think it's-
quality of the writing somehow?
I think
it
well,
is.
Partly
the
that,
quality of the
yes.
quips is one thing. I think it's also in the context of like a schlocky comic book story,
yeah.
and so I
Yeah.
think we
it's also
can-
like
I
Spider-Man
think we
is in New
subconsciously
York,
forgive
and
it.
he'll quip at New Yorkers, right? He'll quip at someone walking
Mm.
by the street and have like a goofy catchphrase, and it's because Spider-Man's a dork,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
well,
I think
also,
that
we've had
works
the-
well.
and we also have the benefit of knowing this character for so long that like quirks quips and stuff are part of his character to keep him calm during like an encounter with something, right?
Because
And
they
we
also
just
know when to
inherently
stop
know
doing
that.
them in Spider-Man, where
Mhm.
he'll just like not for a little while.
Oh,
Like,
I mean,
oh, this gets
well,
serious.
Yeah, like Spider-Man PS4 or you know Spider-Man 2018 or whatever. When it wants to hit those emotional moments, it knows when to shut the hell up and
But
like deliver that moment.
All right, move this away from Spider-Man so we can get through the rest of this. The real question mark for me with Forspoken, this game's an isekai.
Yes, it is.
The main character is sucked in
Right.
from the real world to Final Fantasy land. So
Holy crap, a dragon!
what does this mean? Like, that's my stopping point, is what is the motivation of this game gonna be? Because nothing has been like, oh, she wants to get back to her world. She's just like
I think
flying
it is.
around.
I think it's just very understated. Or it's like, oh, kill the dragon that's threatening
I think
us,
they've
or
already
kill the
set
force
up
of
for
nature.
themselves the cyberpunk problem, and minor spoilers for cyberpunk, but there's a thing that happens early on that gives you a ticking clock, right? You have a ticking clock story thing that's like, okay, you need to beat the main story to solve this problem, and there's a time limit. You don't know how long the time limit is, but you know there's a time limit.
And then you spend years in game.
But then,
in
whenever
real
you
life.
do side content, you feel worse because there's a time limit. The time limit never actually does anything, right? It's not ever gonna happen, but it makes all of the stuff you do in the open world feel less good. So I'm wondering if this is gonna have the same problem of, oh, now it feels like I have this like time-based thing that I'm supposed to get out of here.
That's what we call ludonarrative dissonance, people.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
bring in the big words.
Almost like we're a podcast that reviews
Well, I got another
games,
big word
talks
for
about
you.
them.
Called evolution. Gundam Evolution.
My
let's go,
God.
baby!
So
What
this
a
is a
segue.
free-to-play action FPS for PS5 and PS4. Gundam Evolution
And
is one of those
PC.
things, yeah, and PC, that I cannot believe is real.
Me neither. It sounds too good to be true. Like just straight
it
up.
looks
it
like
just sounds too good to be
actually
true.
fun now. I remember the first trailer they showed did not look particularly good. Now I'm kind of sold on it.
Mm-hmm.
It shows some of the IBO guys.
It does. It has the Barbatos. I was watching this with a couple other guys, and I was like, "Well, I'm already gonna get this because it's free and it's gonna when it comes out." But if I was literally in the middle of saying, if they put my favorite design this in, I'm not going to stop playing it. And then at the end of the trailer, they just showed it being
You
added into the game,
fool.
and I was like, "All right, well,
What's your
Exia's in the
favorite
game
design?
now. I
You
guess
can't just elude your
Exia
favorite
is up
design.
there
Exia,
in like
all right,
my
that's a
top
good
5.
one.
Exia is based.
Yeah,
After
this game seems weird to me.
yeah.
Just like all the games that were shown today, or not today, when the state of play was. Because it's the kind of game where I look at this and go, man, I can't believe this got greenlit, but it actually looks kind of good.
Yeah.
Is it your typical Gundam beat 'em up, or what? What's
No,
the
It's a
it's-
style of game
first-person
we're going?
shooter. It's a hero
It's
shooter.
literally Gundam Overwatch. It's so much so
Oh.
that after they announced that we don't have a date for it yet, it just says spring. But after they announced they're
2022.
doing an open network test, immediately afterward, Overwatch 2 was like, "Oh God, we got to have one too." And
Oh
then they
my
announced this.
God.
It's not actually how it happened, probably, but the joke is that
That's what you would like to
Gundam
think what
Evolution.
happened.
Yes, yes.
Overwatch
Gundam
2 was
Evolution
Gundam
put the fear of
Evolution.
God into
This-
Overwatch 2.
This looks so beautiful too. Look at the
It looks
texturing
good,
on those
yeah.
boys.
I know.
But I think my only issue from
Oh.
what we saw is that it does, to me, it didn't sell the scale of Gundams, right? Where Gundams are like
Yeah.
multi-story things. So seeing them kind of in environments that basically look like they're sized up to Gundam size instead of Gundams being in big environments, it kind of feels like an Overwatch map and not a map designed for Gundam. That's probably not going to be a problem. I don't think it's going to be a huge issue.
I will say the one thing that I kind of noticed, and I'm not sure what the budget for this was, but when you're looking at like direct gameplay with UI and like the animations and everything, the animations, the hand animations seemed a little bit stiff to
Well, they're
me.
stiff
Maybe
'cause
that's
they're
just because
robots.
that's what I was gonna say, but stiff in a way where it didn't seem like it had like a satisfying kick to it. And maybe if I have it in my hands and I play it,
It is hard
Yeah.
to tell.
opinion
Yeah.
would change. But it just seemed a little bit like not quite as satisfying. But I
That's something
will
that's very hard to
happily.
judge.
Yeah, I will
It's the
happily
same
eat my
feeling I had
words.
with Ghostwire Tokyo, where I don't know if it's going to feel super good or really janky. So
Yeah, I will happily
We'll see.
eat my words if this comes out and it is fun to play. But
hey, but Gundam fans eating good. We're
I
getting some
have
good
one
Gundam
problem
games.
with this,
Yeah.
Brett, and only one.
What?
I don't see Psycho Zaku 2 in this.
Psycho
Well,
Zaku's got to
you
be like a
see,
power up or something.
listen. There's another free to play Gundam team shooter game, Gundam Battle Operation 2, that is far clunkier. And if you liked the way that this played, you probably will hate the way that Gundam Operation 2 plays, because it is a total clunk fest.
Oh,
But
the
that game's
wings.
support is absolutely insane. If it's in
I
that
do need
game,
to
if it's
try
in,
Battle Operation 2.
This
if you do,
looks-
let me know because I will play it with you.
Oh, I
It's
will.
really fun.
I think
I'm
I
finally
downloaded it earlier.
getting to watch a trailer of this. This looks like it has Halo movement, but if Master Chief was on Heelys,
It has mech
I
warrior
am
movement.
all here for it. I'm all here for it. Where's that demo?
I want it. I
All
want it
right.
so bad.
Moving us on. We'll talk about Gundam Evolution more when it comes out, I'm sure.
Please.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Cowabunga Collection.
Excuse
Like
me?
every turtle game ever.
I love this. I love that this
Yeah.
exists. It is a big collection of a ton of the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, and there are a lot of good Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games. So, yeah, I'm very excited to see this coming out. It's got the 3-on-1 fighting game. It's got a whole bunch of other stuff.
the arcade beat 'em ups.
The arcade beat 'em ups that everyone loves.
I was wondering about that.
It's got some like NES game that I've never played before. But
And
yeah,
some like Game Boy stuff. It looked like
the Game
at
Boy ones are
beginning.
really good, from what I remember. I played so much of the Game Boy beat 'em up, which is like way better than it had any right to be. So
Turtles fans have been treated well recently too. We got this. We got the continuation of the beat 'em up games. We had something else like right
there's
before.
like a
Am I
Netflix
thinking of?
anime or something that's coming out.
Oh
It
yeah,
might
or
already
maybe
be
I'm
out.
thinking of. Oh wait, I was also thinking of Battletoads.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh no.
And until the new Mario movie comes out, we can still laugh at Chris Pratt.
Yeah,
And
so
then even
there's a bunch
after
of
it comes
arcade
out.
games, which are the 8-bit and 16-bit games, and it's got the fighting games and a whole bunch of other stuff. So a very exciting collection for fans of the games.
Good games too.
13
Collection of-
total.
That's
It's good.
That's a
good
good-
collection.
yeah, definitely.
I love that they just dropped this too. Like, this is a thing that nobody knew was happening.
Yeah.
It was just like, man, the reaction to it was great to see.
That's turtle power.
Okay. Then we have the thing that was, I think, kind of the cool down period of the show called Gigabash. Gigabash is like a top-down kaiju brawling thing.
Mhm.
Ah.
Man,
This genre of game was fun when couch co-op was in,
Yeah.
but it's unfortunately not in anymore. So I just can't see, honestly, myself or anyone else I know playing this, because you don't have like that environment of like screaming at each other and like trying to like push each other
Yeah.
like physically to like, oh my god, I can't believe that! Don't throw me in the building! Oh, he picked up the Empire State Building and threw it at me and stuff like that.
And yes, you can do it
eh.
over Discord with your friends, but it is not the same.
Far
It's
lamer.
not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this to me is like, there's been a couple of these games that have come out. There's like the Mech City Brawl happened. There's like 2 of
Oh
those.
yes, you can destroy
other
buildings
stuff.
and oh yeah.
Yeah, it's got the destroying buildings, but it's like a 2v2 fighting game. And I'm
Well,
kind
it's
of
also-
over 2v2 fighting games.
I was also expecting a little bit more destruction. Like they have some,
Yeah.
but I was expecting more for
very
a
cartoony.
giant kaiju game. Yeah.
Like, I still think Godzilla Destroy All Monsters is the
Yeah.
best kaiju game that has ever been made, and no one has even tried to make it again.
Because
Because
it's too good.
it's just like a single player game that has a multiplayer mode where you can fight as big kaiju in like a fully 3D city, and you get behind the shoulder camera for your characters so you can see what you're doing, and it's very close and everything's very slow and powerful. You have like a campaign mode where you're fighting and they'll summon like the whole army to come take you down, and you get to use your Godzilla lasers. Like, that game is so good. And it's a
Yeah, but what
GameCube
about
game.
Godzilla on PS4? That was a great game that everyone loved.
No. Like, because I think they could just remaster, not even like proper remaster, just give it like the Wind Waker treatment of better textures, and just give me Godzilla Destroy All Monsters again, and I'll be happy. I just want a good kaiju game, but they're super hard to come by.
We got the Turtles collection. Where's the Godzilla collection, man? I need Godzilla
Where?
Save the Earth. I need Godzilla everything.
Because Save the Earth and Destroy All Monsters are like $100-something if you want to go get a
Oh
copy
my
now.
God.
But they're so good.
So good. All right, moving on. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle is coming to modern systems.
The
This is
one
also a
fighting game I've
multi-platform
ever
game.
considered getting.
JoJo's All-Star Battle is kind of legendary because it's one of those fighting games that's not balanced. It's a complete cluster of things happening. And it's also like surprisingly good. It's got like a really good story mode, a whole bunch of other fun things. All the characters feel very true to their counterparts.
It feels like you're in the show.
Yeah, it's one of those fighting games that is the balance is backseat to the fun. This version is probably, I think, going to aim to balance it in a way that makes a little bit more sense, which I'm fine with, because I think there totally is a way to land this game to be balanced and also good. And it's going to add some characters that are missing. And I think the real benefit of having this is that we're going to have a good JoJo's fighting game that isn't Eyes of Heaven.
Yeah.
Because Eyes of Heaven is kind of bad.
I've heard.
So... yeah, I want to play this real bad because I never gotten a chance to. I've played the old like PS1 JoJo's fighting game that's incredible. That game is beyond great. So I'm excited to see this one. I do think it doesn't look like it's aged all that well though, because they say they're remastering it. It doesn't really look like it.
It looks crusty as all hell, which is
it definitely
fine.
is a 360 game.
Yeah.
Okay. After that, we saw Trek to Yomi.
This looks cool.
It looks good.
I am totally down for this.
But I just want to play it because we've seen like 5 trailers at this point, and they all kind of look the same. And so I just want to play the game.
A part of it is like, you know, looking at the gameplay and the visuals, it all looks good, right? But also it has Devolver Digital attached to it, and in my mind, except for a few standout examples, yeah, it's a mark of quality at this point. So I'm very excited. It definitely seems like they took the Kurosawa mode from
Ghost
of Tsushima and really ran with it, because that was always a shame, because it's like it's such a cool feature, but also the game is like the game's art style is so beautiful that you just wouldn't want it at all. So it's nice to see a game in a similar looking setting with that like art style as like the primary focus.
All right, moving on from Trek to Yomi, Returnal Ascension.
Let's go.
Adds co-op
nice.
in a new Tower of Sisyphus mode.
Yeah,
it's probably going to get me to go back to Returnal.
Down. Hey man, when you do some co-op, when you do, hit me up, because oh, that's great. Because like I finished this game, I got to the end and I was like, I never want to play this game again. Not because it was bad, but because I had like poured my heart and soul into finishing it, and I was like, okay, I need to stop.
It's
You're exhausted when you're done.
But listen, co-op is the exact thing to bring me back, because playing co-op with Ryan,
especially to make it like less stressful and more just fun. Yeah, I think that's a thing that'll be good for a lot of people with Returnal.
Yeah,
because that's like my kind of stopping point with Returnal, which is weird because I love very difficult games. But Returnal to me was just kind of, I hit a point of having to replay stuff too much that was very difficult, that it just kind of became a barrier to proceeding. Yeah. So I think this is going to help with that probably.
My question is, it's the Tower of Sisyphus. I think I got that right.
Yeah.
And is that co-op, or is that just because I didn't see any co-op gameplay for Tower of Sisyphus?
Looks like it's not. I think that's like a single player survival mode.
Okay.
Yeah,
which feels like a tiny bit of a missed opportunity. Feels like if that's what they're gonna go with, that feels like a tiny bit of a missed opportunity, because that kind of mode with friends is always
so supposedly it is based on Housemarque's arcade roots. It's effectively their endless mode. Players will strive to ascend the tower as high as possible. However, much like the tragic story of Sisyphus, there is no end to the climb, and players are tragically destined to meet their demise as the mode gets increasingly harder.
Oh my God! Greek mythology references in Returnal. I've never heard of such a thing before. That's insane.
Kind of just makes me want to go.
What
play
an
Hades.
innovation!
to be honest. Call it Tower
Damn.
of
Oh.
Sisyphus.
I got Hades on Game Pass recently.
It's
I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna play that.
All right.
Very good.
Moving on from Returnal, we got our 2 surprise Square Enix heavy hitters coming
Yes, we
through.
do.
The Dio Field Chronicle. This is again Square Enix with the names recently has been doing some weird stuff.
What are you guys doing?
They're going crazy over there.
I don't know if
don't
it's
know.
Dio Field,
feels like-
Dio Field. It's
It feels like they select a specific amount of words that they want for their titles, and then they just hit a random word generator.
Yeah.
yeah.
Huh.
I'll say the gameplay in this is what really was selling me because this is
Mhm.
a strategy RPG that has a combat system I haven't seen in a strategy RPG before. It looks very akin to a lot of indie strategy games where there's no grid. It's almost like a CRPG style where you move with your like tactical points along certain areas and like line up abilities, and everything's on like a city scale. It's not on a small scale because these are supposed to be like big battles. So to me, this looks really interesting. I thought for a while when I first saw this was going to be a new Brigandine game because it looks like Brigandine. I don't think anyone else has played Brigandine, but it looks like that in terms of the art style. So
Yeah, the 2D art does. I know
the
what
2D
you're
art,
talking about.
absolutely. I wonder if it's the same artist because they're both Square
Maybe.
games.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm sold on this, especially seeing his triangle strategy got really good reviews, and especially like the Warfront tactics thing is kind of an appealing way to go. I would love for this to just be a good like Fire Emblem Three Houses, more mature take on the like war story that gets told in a lot of JRPGs. I like that. I think this looks good. The battles, the images they have of the battles all look really good. I love the art style for these.
Yeah, I'm curious to see more because at least for me, I know you're mentioning liking the art style, but like I mean, Square always has fantastic looking 2D art when they do that painterly anime thing. It always looks great. But when the environments that they showed off in the trailer, I understand it's supposed to be in a city, but they were also like gray and like colorless looking.
I do get
And I
that.
don't know if I was.
There's
Very
some that are
boxy as
in this
well.
article that I'm checking that look a lot better. There's like a
Mm.
mountaintop one that has like giant blue ice crystals coming out all over and some other things. But
Okay.
supposedly the battlefields are designed to look like dioramas. And that was their
Oh.
inspiration. Because you can see all the units are on like game stands.
Interesting.
The 3D models. So yeah, I like that they have a very strong sense of style. With this and like voice of cards as well. They're doing some different things again, which I like to see. All right. Moving on from the Dio Field Chronicle, Brett, do you want to take this
Dude.
one?
Turtles fans are eating good. Gundam fans are eating good. Valkyrie profile fans are eating good in 2022, baby. And that is a sentence that no one thought would be said ever. Because the last good Valkyrie profile game came out on the PS2, and there hasn't been another one in like the mainline series
been a
since
mobile
then.
game.
There's been
There,
there's a
Like two
mobile
mobile
game and there's a
games.
mobile port of the first
There are-
one. People don't like those very much.
there are Valkyrie profile fans that are still alive.
All
Oh,
6 of us. um, I will say, with the announcement of Valkyrie Elysium, a lot of people have been very negative about how the game looks to just kind of be like action RPG number 5 million. And while that does kind of suck, I don't care. It's been 14 years, and Valkyrie
I'm just glad
profile
that
is
it
really
exists.
good. Exactly. And they also we don't have an actual release date yet. It just says 2022.
Yeah,
So they can
Definitely later in 2022, from what it looks like.
Yeah, for sure.
Now,
Um,
I do want to bring up Brett. This is a different development studio. It's not Tri-Ace.
yes.
It is a studio behind the Samurai Jack game that came out pretty recently. That I think was actually decently well received.
Hmm.
So
yeah, very good things about it.
this is definitely the biggest project that they have done.
Hmm.
But from what I hear, Samurai Jack's combat was pretty good. So I think we'll see if this is an interesting take on the Valkyrie profile style.
So I'm
Yeah.
gonna be completely honest with you guys. Because I saw this and I was like, I don't know this franchise at all. When the title came up and it had the little like artwork on the left side and it had this like Valkyrie Elysium and this font and stuff. I thought it was some sort of like Final Fantasy offshoot thing because
I mean, it looks like Bravely Default. It's like the same
this-
font.
It's the same.
this
Yeah.
title card looks exactly the same because it's got that like the
I mean, Square Enix
sort
does
of,
that
like,
for everything.
art-
DO Field
Yeah,
Chronicles
yeah.
has it too. It's definitely not a
That
unique
is
problem.
that
and
is
then for a second
also
I thought this was part of Valkyria Chronicles or in that series. I was like, wait, Valkyrie. Never mind.
dude. I the amount of times that I've tried to talk to other people about Valkyrie profile and they go Valkyria Chronicles and I just go no, I want to hurt you. Stop. It's just every single time. But yeah, that is it. I that is how the logos have always looked. But I understand, and it's weird that they weren't like
Some of that's
I-
not
it-
familiar.
yeah.
It gets confusing. I will say, I know nothing about this franchise. I'm not looking at it visually. I'm not 100% sold from a visual standpoint. Some of the textures, and I don't know the budget of this game at all. So maybe, you know, it's lower budget. But like I saw some of the textures, and I was like, oh boy, that looks a little rough.
Best comparison
the-
to me is Stranger of Paradise. I think this looks very similar to that.
It looks like they're almost going for a like a cell shaded like outline with a lot
Yeah.
of the and it just looks strange.
Well, it looks like they're doing
Like,
it on the
doesn't-
objects, but not the character skin. And whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's
It
got like
just-
a
it
realistic
looks
character
odd.
profile next to this different art style.
It looks a little, and it makes it look a little messy for me personally. And there
Yeah,
isn't
I
a
can see
lot
looking
of,
at the images of the game. The enemies are cell shaded.
and also it doesn't look like there's, it's not super. The color palette is a little narrow.
I mean, there's,
Yeah, it's
there's
one of
stuff
the
them
things that I'm
throwing
hoping.
fireballs. This like weird magic circle showing up on a guy. I mean, stuff here.
I guess
that-
mostly
that
with the
just fits.
environments, but I think it looks really interesting. I think the particle effects for the spells and stuff look really cool. A lot of the creature designs look kind of interesting.
I am curious how they're going
I
to work
would-
Einherjars into this game.
Yeah, because just that. I've talked about this with you, Ryan. But just like the change from like semi action with still being like creatively turn based and like weird is it is a little disappointing to me. But especially with the Einherjar, that's it's an important part of the Valkyrie profile thing, where the
This
whole
does
entire
confirm that
point
they
of
are
you
in the game and that they are an
Yeah, at
important
least they're
element of gameplay. It's just not clear how
Yeah.
the game is going to do that. All right, that's the state of play. We talked about it all. We found everything, all the secrets in the state of play. Now it's time to talk about some other minor bits of news that happened. Chocobo GP came out. It's
Mhm.
$50 and
Mhm.
monetized like a free-to-play
Mhm.
mobile game.
Huh, how about that?
There's a battle pass. The only
Mhm.
character in it is Cloud.
Mm-hmm.
3
Oh my
versions of
God.
Cloud.
Oh,
And you have to pay for
Man.
it too. It's not a free.
that is
Man.
disgusting.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
Advance Wars 1+2 reboot camp has been delayed because of unfortunate timing with real-world events.
Oh,
So-
that's right.
So, because here's the
There's
other
that
thing,
faction.
it's not just that there's a faction in the game.
Yeah,
It's that particular faction in the game
that is lightly
is
Russia
invading-
themed.
it is invading the other factions.
Mm.
So for
Ah.
very obvious reasons, it is being
Hmm.
delayed.
Yeah, I think a lot of
That
people are
makes sense.
confused about this delay, but if you play the game, I think a lot of people would be a little bit concerned.
Yeah.
What
It's-
I
it's
do
not
wonder,
lightly
we
Russian
don't have.
themed. It's very
It's very
themed.
Russian themed. It's very USSR themed.
Yeah.
We don't have
Which-
a release date for this. And Russia-Ukraine conflict, we don't know how long this is going to last.
Right.
Yeah.
The invasion that's going on, I mean, all hopes to everyone in Ukraine, it looks like it's going to be a while. So we may not see Advanced Wars for a little while. It's a shame, but I
Which
get
is-
it, right?
It is 110% understandable, but I've talked about my love of these two games, so it is disappointing, but it is the right move to make, 100%.
Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder when we will eventually get this game. In a strange state of affairs, I'm the one here who's really into space flight games. Elite Dangerous, I think, is a good game. Not the best game, but for some reason they've pulled the plug on all console development of Elite Dangerous.
Huh.
After the last expansion
Weird
that launched was
decision.
kind of a disaster. I think it might just be time to put the game out to pasture.
What was the last update?
It was
Or
Odyssey,
expansion?
which had like some really cool concepts of you having open battles on foot, in like low gravity environments and whatnot, being able to exit your ship and explore certain planets and whatnot on foot. It's really janky, didn't work well, wasn't integrated into the game particularly well. Really isn't very fun, and despite how cool it sounds, probably like the worst thing in the game. So it didn't work well. It was also completely broken at launch for like a couple of months. And then they just haven't done it on consoles. So yeah, I think this is pulling the rug out from a lot of console players that were looking forward to that thing and the new Elite content. So it's a shame. I think this is a mark of like Elite Dangerous. Something is wrong with the engine if this is the problem, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a thing that's easily fixable. So
Yeah, it's probably
a
just
shame.
time for a follow-up game, if anything.
Yep. All right. That's pretty much it. There's one other thing I know I had written down. I
There
can't
was
find it.
one
Yeah,
thing. I
go
don't
for it,
know
Wyatt. I think you know what it is.
if this is the same
thing.
Gran Turismo 7 is
yeah.
Sony's racing franchise. Or Gran Turismo is the franchise. Gran Turismo 7 just launched. And it seems like for the most part, it's getting good reviews. However, it has very, very aggressive microtransactions in it.
Oh, really?
Which is something, yeah, shockingly,
But you know,
right?
the weird thing again with this, Gran Turismo 7's microtransactions are totally unnecessary. But they have like $100 packs of credits you can buy.
Oh,
This
God.
game is $70.
Jesus.
And it is worth pointing out that one of the things that it's being praised for is that it does have a lot of content. So it's not like there's a lack of content and they're having you pay for it via microtransactions. It's not like that at all. There's plenty of content, at least from what I've read. But, you know, it gets very aggressive.
Yeah.
Which is strange because you don't usually attribute like Sony exclusive
first party
with
stuff is usually not the thing to do that.
Yeah, they usually are, wipe their hands fairly clean of that sort of thing. So
I mean, we say that, but they did
This is
build Destruction All
interesting.
Stars very heavily, and Last of Us Factions is going to be ridden with microtransactions. I'm certain.
is
So,
it?
I mean, the last one was on PS3. So
I don't remember it having
it had a
microtransactions.
ton. It was tons of microtransactions in that game. So
Huh.
I am 100% positive the presumably free-to-play Factions is going to.
The Uncharted 4 multiplayer did have some microtransactions from what I remember.
But it's weird
well.
because Gran Turismo is just a weird franchise to staple it to.
Yeah.
Because I think
And
the
point.
subset of car fans that play those games really want to have the feeling of progression you get from going from like this dinky old car to actually having like the supercars, and you just kind of ruin that.
Yeah. All without the actual price tag of a real supercar. But if you have multiple $100 microtransaction things built into the game, why?
But it's also like grossly inflated against the player. It's like $40 to get a car that was like sold as
Oh,
DLC in the last
God.
game after release.
And let's keep in
for like
mind
$5 or something like that, to $5.10.
let's keep in mind, every PlayStation exclusive that is full price is now $70, not 60, 70.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a rough ask.
It is a yeah.
The nice thing that I've heard from people that have played it is I'm also the car game person. It's not a game I'm going to pick up soon because it's $70 and it's a sim racer. It's not that interesting to me, but I am going to end up getting this game at some point, and knowing that it has microtransactions attached has lowered the price point I'm willing to pick it up at.
Mm.
And I feel like
don't
this
know
is the thing a
why-
lot of developers are not realizing is so many people do what I do. If they see microtransactions in a game, instantly gets lowered on the list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but it feels like a game that will be on, PlayStation Plus, like,
Oh,
free
totally.
game of the
Well,
month
'cause we do
sooner rather
know-
than later.
PlayStation is working on a Game Pass competitor
Yes, they are.
that supposedly will have a lot of first party games. I'm like, if GT7 releases on that, then I will absolutely play it, right? Because that's the kind
But-
of Game Pass style service you want. But like,
But
they're
you
not
saying
gonna
that-
have the library of games to compete with Game Pass.
See, you say that, and I agree with you on that, where it's an easier sell on that. But if they have a Game Pass like service, right? How much more comfortable are they going to be with these kind of microtransactions in their first party games if they're going to have a Game Pass S service?
I think numbers will probably show them it's not going to be that great, because I don't think Game Pass has done particularly well with DLC sales either. Because the fact that you don't own a game makes it a much riskier proposition to buy DLC for it, right?
Yeah.
I think a good point is like Crusader Kings 3 is a game I really like that has like a couple of DLCs out now. I'm just not going to buy because I don't want to have it taken away when I don't have the game on Game Pass
And
anymore.
then you're just left with the
then
DLC
have to drop
and not the
$60.
game.
Like, well, it got a lot more expensive. So, yeah, I think it's not having as much of an effect as it should. The thing I did want to bring up, Overwatch 2, we got a new update. They've split the game into PvE and PvP updates. The PvP update will be coming soon-ish. Maybe?
Wow.
Uh,
Bad.
This is the most confusing development cycle I think I've seen, because it seems very clear that they do not know when this game is going to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they keep advertising it. And they keep going, oh,
Yeah.
but it's coming. And current Overwatch, I think, is done, right? Like, everyone has kind of lost interest. Which is crazy, because Overwatch was huge for like 5 years.
I love playing Overwatch. I would usually just have it installed on my computer at all times and like
Dude, I had a
play it
job
every now
teaching
and then.
people how to play Overwatch better. Like, that was my job, full time,
Pretty sick.
for like 6 weeks. So, yeah, I think it's done, right? Like, I don't know if it's just me.
It
It's
has to be.
Overwatch craze
Come on.
past. Maybe it'll have space when it comes out, because I do think, despite hero shooters being a little bit over with at this point, there's not really many good ones coming out.
Mhm.
Maybe Gundam Evolution.
Until
will fill
Gundam
that.
Evolution comes out.
Well, that's the other thing to keep in mind, right? I feel like I mean when Overwatch launched, it was a good game in and of itself. So I feel like, and it's a Blizzard game, so it probably would have done well regardless.
Yeah.
But it launched at just the right time where hero shooters were in a spot where they were the big thing, but they hadn't become oversaturated yet. It was almost there, but it released at just at that
Mhm.
like perfect window of time. And that's timing that they
Yeah.
can't really get again with a sequel.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
It's just it's so weird to me how they just so enthusiastically dug themselves an early grave by announcing it as early as they did, because it's just so, I don't know. I feel like all the people that I
You know
know
what?
that were
I'm gonna
Overwatch
make
fans just
executive
dropped it
decision
'cause
right
of
now.
that.
We have run a lot over the news time I had allotted. So I'm just going to convert the rest of this discussion into this, because I think we're on an interesting point here, and we don't have enough time left to do the tutorial
Okay.
discussion justice.
Oh, no. Oh, well.
So let's continue with this for a little while. I got some other stuff here too, but I think this is a good time to talk about it now that it's fresh on everyone's minds. What's up with Overwatch at this point?
I don't know, because I do think that it's just like there's probably still like a player base for it, and all games that have had a dedicated player base at one point kind of keep that to a certain
Yeah.
degree. But all the people who I've like talked to or that I'm friends with that have played Overwatch once are just like, yeah, I remember when it was fun, and now I don't ever want to play it ever again.
It's not going to stop me from saying I hope it's dead.
I think
Oh, me
the
too,
real
don't worry.
issue at this point is that it needs a bigger shakeup
It
than.
does.
I mean, we can say Overwatch 2 all we want. It's not really a sequel, right? It's
Yeah.
this
Wow.
weird Frankenstein's
different.
monster.
Generic looking characters? Count me out.
Like, I like Overwatch's character design for the most part
I do too.
as of 4 years ago, but I think we've also hit a point where I'm not that interested in just doing the same thing again. Like I think I like seeing the new character updates and whatnot, but I really think they need like different gameplay, right? That's the big thing to me is I need to be playing Tracer and not feel like I'm playing Tracer from the old game. Something's got to change.
I think the issue is that I think two things. One, I think overall in its entire lifespan, they didn't add a lot of core multiplayer modes. They added a lot of gimmicky, fun, like seasonal modes and stuff, but nothing that was a mainstay. Because you kind of had those like two modes that had some slight variation on each other. It's like, okay, either like push the payload along, or you control a point and push the payload, or you control 2 points, right? And that was it, right? There weren't any modes. It seems like they are adding one now, but this should have happened many years ago at this point, where they needed more game modes that stuck around and that became a core competitive mode or a core like quick play mode. And they just didn't add those. Again, they had a lot of fun gimmicky stuff that would come up for a little bit, like during a Halloween event or something, but they needed to stay around in order to keep people playing. Yeah. And I think the second problem is, you hinted at it earlier, but they announced Overwatch 2 way too early. I legitimately feel like if they had just not said anything, and then when they like around the time they started to like kind of end post launch content for the first game and then announced Overwatch 2, I think people would be way more happy with how long we've had to wait, because we wouldn't be waiting that long because we didn't know it was in development.
At that point, you'd at least just have to go off like only rumors or something and nothing official yet, so you wouldn't have to...
It's hard to say because Overwatch's hype level was at like a steady decline when they announced Overwatch 2, and it's only really gotten lower since then.
And it's only gotten lower because they haven't done as much post-launch content for it, because they're working on the second game.
So I do wonder if maybe the better option would have been to just go radio silent about an update and say Overwatch is finished, and then come out 5 years later after silence and be like, hey, Overwatch 2 is going to come out in a year, right?
And listen, right? Like, what the other thing they could have done is, if people who own Overwatch 1 will still be able to play all of the multiplayer stuff for Overwatch 2, you know what? Shadow drop it. Just be like, we announced it and it's ready to go. Right? I feel like that would have been, and obviously, shadow dropping is a huge endeavor for everyone involved, but you have that dedicated Overwatch fan base, you have that dedicated Blizzard fan base, because there are still people, even with everything that's happened in the past year or two with Blizzard, right? You still have those dedicated fans.
I do wonder how much of that plays into the fact that I think it's very hard for Blizzard to keep secrets. Just because there's such a large group of people, there's a lot of dissatisfaction in employees, which I think leads to a lot of leaks happening, because people don't really have the faith in the company that you need to make them loyal, right? So I wonder if it's that side of things that kind of influences as well, of, well, we don't think we can keep this a secret. So they just announced it when they started developing it. But it's weird because like they had a whole cinematic trailer with new character designs.
It makes you wonder if they're like, what kind of behind the scenes stuff is going on.
I especially want to know what that design storyboarding room looks like. What was the pitch for Overwatch 2? Was it Overwatch but again? Because that's a fine pitch if that is the case, right? But we know they're doing PvE. And if PvE is an afterthought, then no one's going to play it.
Yeah.
Which is what it feels like right now.
But at the same time, they're not. It doesn't seem like it's an afterthought, because now they're having to separate it so they can actually focus on it. If it was an afterthought, they wouldn't care. They'd just be like, okay, here it is. But because they're splitting the PvE and the PvP now, it seems like they definitely want to focus.
I actually think, to me, the way this PvE and PvP split is hitting me is the same as Fortnite. I'm getting the same feeling when Save the World was basically split from the Battle Royale, and the Battle Royale spun out to be the bigger thing. Because like Fortnite was originally a PvE game. It was a co-op PvE shooter with base building, which that part of the game I played back in the beta and really liked. That was my like fun part of the game, but it's become basically abandoned at this point. Not fully, but it's very clear that they just don't really care what happens in that half of the game, and so none of the fun stuff gets there. All the fun crossover stuff and whatnot is in the main competitive mode. So that to me is what this is striking me as, is okay, we have to kind of cut our losses on this PvE mode because it's not the thing getting interest. So we got to go with the PvP, which we know our dedicated fan base wants.
Is that the thing that's getting interest though? Because it seems like for the most part, it's very much like, yeah, okay, like multiplayer, there's going to be some like changes or whatever. It seems kind of the same. I think more people are interested in like a dedicated PvP.
I agree with you,
or
but I think
PvE.
they realize that they cannot deliver what people want. I think that is my prediction for what happened, because I remember a couple of talks happening from a few horde shooter devs that were like, when you're making a horde shooter, you really have to nail so many different elements for people to stick around, and that's why games like Back 4 Blood is losing its player base, because it had a lot of good progression, had a lot of good level design, but it ends, right? There's not enough to keep you going. Whereas Left 4 Dead is just kind of so well designed that it's stuck around for so long. So I think it's the kind of thing where if you're doing a horde shooter specifically, and not like a single player level based shooter, you have to get things so right to keep the 4 players you need to populate a server around, right?
Well, especially because you're asking them to essentially do the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah,
So
because
you
what
have to
I
have
would have loved, I think
fundamentals around.
I think a lot of people are interested in Overwatch's story, and I think the PvE being a horde shooter kind of plays against that, because then you're limited in how you can deliver that story.
Yeah.
Right? You can't do a lot of fun level things. You're kind of limited by the fact that people need 4 players, so levels have to be relatively short so you can get in and out quickly. Whereas
Didn't
like
they
what
say
I
you
would
can
have
select
loved,
different characters at the beginning of the mission too? So like, how personal is,
well, there
a
were like
character's
skill
story
trees that
arc
they
gonna
showed out and
be?
stuff like that. So it just feels like it's not going to be the thing where like I would have loved to have essentially a like Warframe style story, right? Where you go through one mission with each character or something, 1 or 2 missions, and you get like a full character mission that is just about them and why they're doing what they're doing and stuff like that. I think that would have been the direction the campaign could have gone, that still wouldn't require this huge investment, but I think that got shot down because it's not a thing that prints money. It's not a thing that's going to keep people coming back to it over and over, because you can't just attach a bunch of progression to like a single level, right?
Well, and it also feels so like having this because here's the thing, like they were gonna have Overwatch 2 be its own thing, but kind of Overwatch 1, because Overwatch 1 players can still get the PvP content. And now they're splitting it again. And so it becomes even more muddled about what Overwatch 2 as a whole really is. And it becomes even more muddled when you think about it's kind of unnecessary. They've been doing this like PvE style content in like little drips over the years, but they've had these really fun little like PvE sort of horde mode stuff with objectives. And it's like, why didn't you just run with that more? Like,
Dude,
why does it have to be
I kind of
this?
disagree.
Why does it have to be this whole sequel and then things were ripped apart, and it feels very muddled at this point.
I didn't like a single one of the PvE things I played that Overwatch had over the course of it, because they all just felt less fun than playing those maps in multiplayer. Because I think many games have real difficulty with converting multiplayer maps to single player maps or co-op maps, because they're just not designed for it, right?
I mean, I think the better choice would have been to have like specifically designed maps. I agree with you there, but you could still do that with, base Overwatch.
I mean, then my question is it worth it? Like, people aren't gonna stick around for that forever. They'll play them when they're in custom events, right? When they're in like a couple week long thing. But I think if those were permanent modes, you see them die very quickly. That's a longevity.
But I mean,
point.
is that a better investment? Is that a worse investment than making a whole sequel where half the content is what Overwatch 1 players can get anyway?
I just think it's so confusing, because they really locked themselves into this corner of linking the PvP modes together, because you can make a sequel to a game and have it be its own thing, right? And I don't think people would have complained with Overwatch, because it's not like Call of Duty. We're not getting one every year. So you
Yeah.
could have just made Overwatch 2 and not announced that it was going to be linked to Overwatch 1, and people would have been happy with that, I think.
I wonder if it became a linked thing when because I back in my mind I'm like, I wonder if originally it was supposed to be its own separate thing, and then they realized how similar the game they were making was, and they're like, well, let's just link it with Overwatch 1 so that like fans
I
won't
also
be
wonder how much of it is
super pissed.
cosmetics. If they were like, okay, we want to let people retain their cosmetics from the first game, which like I applaud that desire. But at the same time, if that's going to hamstring you in terms of being able to make it a separate game, just then make it so you keep your skins for the same character if the characters are in the game, and it's just like a legacy skin, right? It's just
Or
a different thing.
Or honor players, what a lot of games do is like, oh, we recognize that you bought the first game. Here's some sort of reward for this new game or something. Something that like only
Yeah.
legacy fans or like previous
That's what
fans.
League of
get.
Legends did that, where if you played a champion before they got reworked visually, you get their old like janky little character model as a skin that you could use.
That's
Which
great.
is really fun because it's like, oh, I can pull out this like 2003 looking skeleton man and just wander around in my giant horrible puffball of cloak that looks like it came out of Warcraft 2 and have a good time, and I like that, right? Like it's a neat little legacy thing. But I wonder if this is like the fallout we're going to start seeing of microtransactions, because people are not going to buy the next game, if their microtransactions that they spent like $100 on don't carry over. So
It's Blizzard's fault for introducing that in the first place. For having that.
I think
sort
it's
of-
because that was the short-sighted thing with microtransactions and loot boxes of, oh, this will be really good at the time, but now we have to like constantly respect the money that people spent, or we're gonna lose them. And it's
Because
like
the amount of fans that you're going to have where it's like, well, I spent my money and my time on that. Now it's time to go to something else. And they're going to be like, whatever about it. You're not going to get a lot of those people.
and like I get it, because I honestly think it's the same thing as Destiny 2. Because Destiny 2 made that call. They were like, okay, people spent their money on this. We cannot keep supporting it in the game. It's going. Right? And like, I don't like that decision as a player, but I understand it going forward. I just think it would have been better attached to being Destiny 3 as an entity so I could still play it, right? So,
well, and originally too, it's interesting that they're doing it now because Destiny 2 was originally supposed to be an expansion and like this big update. And then I believe it was an Activision decision where they're just like, yeah, okay, nope, it's going to be a whole separate thing now.
because Destiny was originally like 3 or 4 games planned with Activision over the course of like 12 years or something. And then that got tossed out really quickly.
Oh yeah, they had that whole 10-year plan.
Yeah, they had the 10-year plan of
with
like
one
3
game.
releases. No, it wasn't one game. They were going to do like a trilogy of Destiny games.
Oh, right.
Originally, it wasn't one game. So that got changed when Destiny 2 got super successful to now, okay, we're just going to have Destiny 2 be the thing. I have to ask you, Alex, have they dropped the Destiny 2 from marketing? Is it now just Destiny Beyond Light?
No, it's still Destiny 2.
Because the 2 to me is confusing. Like it's there because it's Destiny 2, that's the game. But I think it's the situation where people go, oh, wait, is it okay to play the second one if I haven't played the first? Except now I can't play the second one because the campaign is gone. So.
Yeah. Ryan, I think why I am less upset about the thing, the content vaulting than you are. Which, I mean, not to say that you aren't, warranted in that. I think that's absolutely the right reaction to have about that. I got the base game and Forsaken for free, and paid like a quarter of the price for Shadowkeep at like a special bundle time. So I didn't feel like I was really.
I mean, that's
missing
great,
anything on
Alex,
that
but it
vaulted
does
side.
cost me $150 to get caught up to Witch Queen if I wanted to right now.
Yeah.
So that's when that logic kind of breaks apart of if they're pricing the game around sales. And especially if the fact that like, okay, well, I spend $30 to play Shadowkeep. First of all, I heard Shadowkeep is not great. Second of all, it's going to get vaulted at some point. That's now a thing in the back of my mind for every single purchasing decision in regards to Destiny. It's why I haven't bought anything new. Is I'm like, well, eventually this is going to go away. So
yeah, and when they bring it back, like they are starting to bring Mars back, you're much more than like 99.9% chance you're not going to get the Warmind expansion back when Mars comes back.
Well, that's another thing is I was like halfway through Warmind.
Warmind expansion back.
No one wants Curse of Osiris back.
Warmind was pretty
That's
good.
what I meant.
Because I was like halfway through it, never got to finish it because they vaulted it. And so I'm like, well, I was actively playing this content, and just because like I don't have the time to play Destiny as much as a lot of people do, because it's not my only
that's
game.
Another thing with Destiny's focus on FOMO. It does not respect your time.
It's also the same reason like I'm done with Halo Infinite for now. It's because Halo Infinite's challenges are just so anti-player that I'm just like, I feel like I am actively being held at gunpoint to play this game when I'm playing it, and I don't like that feeling.
Yep. Right there with you. Definitely not playing it anymore.
You're playing it right now, aren't you?
No.
Wyatt, share your screen.
Not right now, but right after I probably am.
My God.
Yeah, it is just like, it's a hard thing because I really like both Destiny 2 and Halo Infinite's gameplay, but it has revealed to me how much supporting systems can impact my enjoyment of a game in a negative way. And I think that's a good thing to have learned about myself. I've kind of learned what my limit is. But at the same time, I am very worried about more games going this direction. Elden Ring restored a bit of that hope. There are big budget games coming out that don't follow that. But like we just talked about Gran Turismo. Doing the same stuff.
I was going to say, unfortunately, it also showed that most Western developers hate the way that Elden Ring was going.
Dude, it wasn't most Western developers. It was specifically a couple of ex-Horizon devs trashing Elden Ring because its UX wasn't great.
Ubisoft.
Actually, yeah, it was a current Horizon dev and an ex-EA and Ubisoft dev. Look, don't trash other games on Twitter.
Worst vendors.
Don't be salty about other games on Twitter.
Even if it's a bad game,
steal your
9
kneecaps.
times out of 10, it is never a good look.
Unless it's 10 plus years old and it was released on like the Famicom as like a weird joke. Or if it's ET, you can make fun of ET as much as you want.
Or the Nintendo Virtual Boy.
Until the company that made the game admits it was a failure, you can't make fun of games. It's not a good look for anyone.
Just remember, if you do, I will steal your kneecaps. They will be mine, and I'll keep them in a little jar in my basement.
What?
All right.
You need to worry about Wyatt.
What?
Okay. That's a sentence that just happened. I will add.
I know your Twitter handles.
I forgot to mention, Brett, we got some Soul Hackers 2 gameplay this week.
Oh, I actually did see
Soul
that.
Hackers.
I did not see it.
It's brief, but it looks good, and so I'm excited to see that Atlas is pouring out some more stuff. Some good old JRPG meat for us.
I did see only a couple seconds of it because someone was showing it to me, and I looked at it and I was like, press turns here. Good. That's all I need to. Right. That's really all you need to know, because that you just know the rest of the game is going to play fantastically, because press turn is like one of the most satisfying turn-based combat systems ever like thought of.
All right, so we like to play games on this show, and this game is courtesy of Jeff Keighley, the Game Awards.
My boy.
Does it have to do with shoes?
It does not have to do with shoes, to my knowledge.
Your pause gave me so much.
I had to think about it for a second. All right.
Wonderful.
There was a moment or two of thought that went into that. But the Game Awards will sometimes tweet out from their Twitter account little prompts. And the one that they tweeted out today, I thought would be a good game. So their prompt today was, what studio would you like to see tackle a Mandalorian video game?
Ooh.
And now I'm going to throw in a couple rules for this. We all know Naughty Dog would do a good job. We all know Respawn would do a good job.
Aww.
Respawn and Naughty Dog are off the table. Those are the rules.
Ryan, you read my mind.
I knew you were gonna say it. Look, I agree with you.
Come on.
I think Mandalorian, Naughty Dog could do a great job at.
100%.
100%.
Hey,
But
maybe they could make a Boba Fett game that didn't suck.
yeah, to give you
Look
guys
at
some
you,
time to
Boba
think. I
Fett.
mean, hey, the PS2 Boba Fett games are really good.
I meant to say Book of Boba Fett
Yep.
show. Anyway.
All right.
Oh.
I'm gonna give you guys some time to think and give you mine. I would love to see Slow Clap, the Sifu and Absolver devs, take a stab at a Mandalorian game. Because can you imagine the gun kata that they could do with a Mandalorian? Ugh. I think they could get into some
Gun-kata?
true shenanigans. Gun kata is like the crazy martial arts pistol fighting that you see in like John Wick and whatnot sometimes.
Ooh.
Also, they could probably do some really cool stuff with the Darksaber too, to be honest.
Oh,
yeah. I think Slow Clap would be a good pick because they know how to get some brutal combat right that's very snappy and fast. And I could see like a 5-hour-long Mandalorian game be really good. Like one that knows how long it can be and is just like a really focused, action-heavy like arc of the story. I think that would be like the perfect type of Mandalorian game. So I would love to see them tackle that. Who's ready to go next?
This is tough.
This is really hard.
Yeah.
Especially because I don't know a lot of studios offhand.
Well, especially because I'm massively overthinking it.
I mean, you could also just think, if you don't know the studio's name, you could think of the game that they make that you would like it to be somewhat akin to.
I got one.
Go for it.
I think Santa Monica would make a pretty awesome Mandalorian game. No,
Sony Santa Monica.
I mean,
yeah.
That's the kind of statement that I can't deny. But at the same time, I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Sorry, was that too obvious? Do you want me to pick another one?
Hey, no, I didn't put Santa Monica on the list. You can take Santa Monica. It'd probably be pretty good.
I'm sorry, my answers
I'm just
are too
imagining
good,
that
Ryan.
it's like the older God of War games and not the newer ones. And there's just a ton of like button mashing mini games.
That
it's like
being
button mash to
said,
climb a tower.
It's like it's hard for me because all I can like the ones that stand out the most in my mind are all like Sony exclusive studios because they do the third
I
person
mean, I guess
thing,
we
which
can
is what you
also
would
say
want.
Insomniac would do a great job.
Yeah, because and I say that because they do the third, they're typically like third person action games, whether it's like Melee or Raged or something, and they always just have really good storytelling. Well, mostly good storytelling. And so it's just like, I mean, pick almost any of them, and they would fit perfectly, Oh, okay. I also got another one. Actually, it's not a Sony studio, so there you go. They're technically not around anymore, but I think Visceral could have made a really cool Mandalorian game.
Oh yeah, that would have been something to see.
Oh yeah,
Especially if it's like lightly horror themed.
Ooh.
Mhm.
Oh, that spider
too soon.
episode.
Gone too soon.
At least we're getting Dead Space again.
You know what? I feel like it would be good in quotation marks, but by God, would it be wackadoo interesting? What if it was given to Kojima?
Dude,
Oh Jesus!
I was gonna say
Christ.
because I don't have like a studio in mind, but this is
Yeah.
going to be an offshoot of yours, Alex, because I'm thinking Snake Eater. I'm thinking what would a Mandalorian or like Boba Fett, like Star Wars Bounty Hunter game be like in that kind of Snake Eater or obviously different developer or like System Shock 2, just like open-ended game design but like condensed sections of levels kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there've been like it's kind of like an RPG thing. There have been like Star Wars RPGs in the past, but not really the same. They don't have like the emergent gameplay.
they're not leaning
like,
into the
you wouldn't have
immersive
to-
sim.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to like scavenge for weird like
You'd throw it to
Star
Eidos
Wars
Montreal.
lizards. It's throw
I
it.
was gonna
throw it
say
to
that
them.
too. I was gonna say that too.
Be a nice
Actually.
first-person take on it.
Crystal
Yeah.
Dynamics also does a lot of good like narrative driven.
Let's
Ah,
let
yeah.
Crystal Dynamics cool down a little bit after Avengers.
I'm pre-Avengers Crystal Dynamics. Let's put it that way.
At least Eidos had Guardians of the Galaxy to bring them back up afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of studios that could do a good job of this. I do wonder what it would look like if we got just not Mandalorian, but just a Star Wars themed game or a Star Wars setting game developed by Yoko Taro. What
Oh
would that
my
look
god.
like?
Oh
right.
man.
Some of the things that are now not canon anymore are just straight up Yoko Taro ideas. Like the
Yep.
amount of things that exist that could just wipe
Hey,
planets
old
off the map.
canon, Chewbacca got killed by a moon.
Yeah,
What?
that landed on him that he was
Because
holding
nothing
up
else
to
could
save
kill him.
Han Solo's son.
I'm sorry, what?
Yes.
What?
It's the coolest thing.
Star
and
Wars
it's so
Legends
sad.
No.
is incredibly good.
Oh,
All of
man.
Legends Star Wars is phenomenal.
Wow.
If you haven't played them, Alex, you need to go play like Jedi Academy and Jedi Knight. They are
Yeah.
bonkers games.
Chewbacca
Oh,
holding up a
man.
moon.
Yeah, it's great. In contrast, I would love to imagine 2K just getting one of their sports game studios
God.
to do a Star
Why?
Wars sports game. I just want to know
It turns
what
into
it would
FIFA.
be. What would it? 'Cause have we ever seen like a sport in Star Wars?
I
Has
think
the-
in like some of the books they talk about some stupid like
We've seen,
ball
like,
game that doesn't
holo
exist.
chess,
It's
but like I
holochess,
want to
yeah.
see.
4D chess with time travel.
I want to see a Star Wars game that is just like an unhinged sci-fi sporting event. In
Pod
just like the
racing.
truest combat.
Pod racing, yeah, that's a sport, kind of.
Yeah. Pod
Race-
racing, I guess
NASCAR's a
fits, is
sport,
racing.
I think.
That would be a neat trick.
Oh yeah, I'll try spinning. Spin the disc.
Now this is
I felt everyone die when I said that.
Okay. So with that
Well,
amount
it's-
of unhingedness, anything else we want to add to the Star Wars?
All I
realm?
want to say is it's a really good thing that a Star Wars game isn't being given to David Cage. Wait.
You know what? Here- okay.
Oh, no.
The best thing. No, obviously we know very little about it, so
We
you
do know
there
its
is
tentative
that.
date right now is 2027.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Wow.
Overwatch 2,
I
eat
think-
your heart out.
I think we can. I think we can all agree that the best thing about that Quantic Dream project is that it is a sign that EA does not hold the Star Wars license anymore.
Yeah.
That's the best
Yeah.
thing about it, is that it is
Okay, I'll
it
just
is
remind
symbolic
everyone.
of that.
Star Wars Eclipse put up a job posting, I think 2 days ago, for a lead narrative designer.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Ryan, any postings out there for character artists?
Are you sure you want to work with David Cage?
Yeah, I don't know if you want
David
that.
Cage, dude? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it may not be
It
might
locked
last a
to
week.
EA, but it's certainly decided by Dartboard. Because my God.
If
All
only
right.
David Cage's head could be a dartboard.
Hey, if it's decided by dartboard, then at least I have a chance.
God.
With that, we're going to move on to shoutouts before we become truly unhinged.
Click,
How's
clack,
the-
shiny
how's-
math rocks.
How's the shoutout vibe today? Are we feeling good about the shoutout vibe today?
I
got
gotta-
a shout out, bud.
Yeah, I got a shout out.
Or someone give me their shoutout vibe for today.
Go for it,
That
Brett. You got it.
vibe.
All right. Well, we talked about it before, but I'm gonna gush more on Valkyrie profile because I have to give a shout out to just it in general, because after beating Elden Ring, I was like, I don't want to play anything else for the rest of my life. I don't know what to do. And then Valkyrie Elysium got announced, and then I started playing Valkyrie Profile 2 Sumeria, which I had not played before. And the battle system is like the most incomprehensible to explain thing I've ever seen for a battle system, but it is so much fun because it's like I'm not going to go into detail, but it's like you walk around and there's the enemy in the overworld, and then you do the thing where you swing to hit them to get the advantage at the start. And then you get teleported to like a little mini dungeon where all the other small enemies are, and then you got to run around and just mash buttons to hit all of them, and the combo number gets really high, and then you could press the other button when the combo number gets high, and then you do a big attack, and the combo number gets even higher, and then they die, and then you go to the next one and do the same thing again. Good.
You know what they say? It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing.
They do say that very often, and it is true.
All right. I have a very similar story, Brett. I finished playing Elden Ring and didn't want to play anything else.
For the second time?
No, for the first time. I still feel that way. For like a full week afterwards, I did not play any other video games. After I beat Elden Ring, I just kind of sat there and occasionally played some more Elden Ring and occasionally just stared at a wall.
Yeah, that's
the kind of feeling it leaves you with. I got 3 mini shoutouts here. First of all, the bundle for Ukraine that itch.io put up has a ton of just weird little experimental games, as well as a few really like high polished ones. One of them is Cloud Gardens, which is just this very peaceful little puzzle game where you like grow on apocalyptic landscapes, and it's just about you placing plants down and putting objects for them to grow on. It's very zen. It's like the perfect thing to play while you just think about Elden Ring. Next, X4, the old space sim that I love very much, has a new DLC coming out tomorrow called Tides of Avarice. That seems very cool, and so I got back into that, and that game is very relaxing to also play while just thinking about Elden Ring. Thirdly, I finally needed something to break me out of thinking about Elden Ring, and so instead I thought about how insane it was that I could open up WWE 2K and play Wardlow in a story mode, immediately get into a match with a jobber who does a 5-minute musical intro in the game, then runs away after the first special move I use on him. And that's the kind of game that just really needs to exist. Because it was unhinged to a degree that I was not expecting. It was great. Highly recommended. All right.
I'll go. Shout out to a very specific moment in Horizon Forbidden West. There's a whole island, like a little island dedicated to one thing, which is a sort of if you've played Ghost of Tsushima, it's very similar to like a meditation sort of area, and it's dedicated to the. I believe he was a lead producer that died during development, and so they had this very nice poem that was, in memory and in honor of him, and they had a whole like separate, island dedicated to it, and it was very sweet and it was very, very thoughtful. So
love to see it.
Yeah.
Alex, you're the last one left.
Oh, it's me. Shout out to on a I guess much less wholesome note than that. Shout out to my computer and PlayStation controller for finally working together and not immediately assuming that my PlayStation controller is both a speaker and a microphone.
Oh, you got to disable that. Yep.
So I can't listen to games.
Look, what you got to do is plug the controller in. It'll recognize both as a speaker and microphone. Then you go into your settings while it's still plugged in, disable both of them. Then it won't auto switch it anymore.
I did that and it didn't work the first time. I messed around and completely forgot what I did.
It does depend because it's different depending on the socket that you put it on your computer in. Because it recognizes it as the same device if it's in the same USB socket. If it's not the same USB socket, it's going to recognize it as a different device.
Oh god,
that was probably your problem.
That is because I think I have 4 USB sockets on this thing.
Yeah, this is a little tip to anyone wanting to use a controller that does that. Oftentimes, your computer will count them as different computers or different devices if they're plugged into different USB slots, and you'll have to do it all again. Great, we did it. as always. Podcast Tuesday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, the podcast platform of your choice. That's it. That's the show.
Good job.
Ta-da!
Oh, I enjoy the outro music.
It was fun.
I have to confess, during the latter part of that show, I uninstalled Halo Infinite. While everyone was talking about it, I was like, this sucks.